So a big 24 hours in UK politics. Yes, Rishi Sunak in Windsor with the unelected Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the European Commission. What's it all about? Well, all the newspapers today will tell you it's a significant, historic breakthrough, a great victory. Yes, it's so amazing. We can now eat the same sausages on sticks at cocktail parties in Belfast and London. That's the enormity of it. All right, I'm being a bit sarcastic. What really happened here was going right back to the very beginning, in the aftermath of Brexit. The Northern Ireland issue was seized on by Monsieur Barnier and other sidekicks like Verhofstadt, and they thought they found a way that they could trap the British. It was the Barnier poison pill, and of course Mrs May swallowed it, along with her chief negotiator, Ollie Robbins, who's been rewarded. He's now in the House of Lords. You couldn't invent this stuff, could you? Boris then inherited that after the Brexit Party got rid of Mrs May, a very good job we did, and he was faced with a choice. Potentially, could the whole of the UK be kept within single market rules and the customs union, or was it time just to ditch Northern Ireland? And what Boris did was to ditch Northern Ireland. It's a shame he lied about it, but that's what happened, and that's why it's been impossible for seed potatoes, sausages, trees, all sorts of goods to go back and forth, and we've had a border in the Irish Sea. So what has Sunak done? Well, clearly, Brussels likes Sunak a lot more than they like Boris. They thought Boris was an outright liar who would break treaties. Who's to say whether they were right or wrong about that? So basically, there's a bit of sanity now in terms of trade, in terms of goods moving between English ports and Northern Ireland and vice versa. But here's the point. Number one, Sunak tells us that all new EU laws will have a veto. I promise you, when we drill down into the legalities of this, we'll find it is just a Windsor Framework Agreement. It isn't fundamentally going to change the treaties that we've agreed. If it does, there'll be very, very marginal changes. The EU wouldn't give up very much on that. It apparently gives us flexibility on many areas, not all, but many areas on VAT and excise duties. But then the EU can be confident with that. Firstly, because they know that under Jeremy Hunt, we're not going to cut taxes and be competitive. And secondly, because of course they know we're going to have a Labour government in 18 months' time who will just mirror every single EU rule, not just in Northern Ireland, but across the whole of the UK. When we dig in to the legal basis behind this great proclamation of victory, we'll find it's not as it seems. But as I discovered back in 2019, with Boris's so-called much vaunted renegotiation and oven-ready deal, when I argued the next day with legal facts about what was wrong with it, including what would happen to Northern Ireland, no one wanted to know. And it's the same now. It's the same now. There'll be no ministerial resignations. The backbench protest in the Conservatives will be tiny. Will the DUP accept the deal or not? I don't know. I suspect in the end, some form of it they probably will. And Sunak goes on, and Boris Johnson's chances of coming back as Tory leader are now hovering back down towards zero. So the facts of this won't matter. It's the presentation that matters. It's all that anyone cares about in modern politics. But a final thought on it that worries me greatly. The cynical way in which Goldman Sachs Rishi used the name Windsor, this historic, ancient town, the implication that what he was doing was a really big deal that would stand with Magna Carta and other things in history. And then for the king to meet this woman, Ursula von der Leyen, not even a head of state, and to do so before any agreement has been ratified, clearly was a willful attempt to involve the king in the political process. We're told the king does what his ministers tell him. Yeah, but the king can equally say no. And my worry, and I was there twice in the European Parliament when Charles turned up and gave very pro-EU speeches, called for more power for the Brussels institutions. My worry is he's starting to let politics show. And if I'm right about that, he will alienate those in the country most inclined to support the monarchy. So there is a real problem with that, a real issue with that. All in all, of course it's better than where we were. Where we were was disastrous for Northern Ireland, catastrophic for Northern Ireland. But they're still going to be subject to new EU laws. They're still going to be subject to the European Court of Justice. And for Northern Ireland, Brexit most certainly isn't done.